am Judi L. Jones, and this is In Conversation, a video series that I started hoping that you will be inspired to do better and be better by listening to and learning from the unique experiences of others. Today, I am most fortunate to have as my very first guest, Miss Wendy Johnson. She will be speaking about a disorder that befell her family, more specifically, her daughter, auditory processing disorder. It's a disorder that affects how one learns and processes information. Most specifically, one's ability to process speech and recognize the sounds around them. Its etiology could be premature birth, head trauma, or ear infections. Treatment is manageable, but the disorder is incurable. By the end of this conversation, you will be inspired to believe more in yourself, to believe more in the person with the disorder, despite the negativity that's being spread. And say, when was the first time you and your husband were told that your daughter had this auditory processing disorder? What stage of growth was it when you were told?
Okay, so by the third grade, we were told that she had auditory processing disorder. We were told by a speech teacher in kindergarten that she thought that might have been the possibility, that she had an disorder when it came to processing.
Okay, so prior to that, did you and your husband have any clues, any cues that Ming was exhibiting that gave you something that was a little off, or?
Definitely. I think the first cue that we got was she wasn't speaking. She wasn't speaking, I guess, since she was my first child. I had no idea when kids were supposed to be speaking.
Oh, right,
that was one.
Right.
And I guess it was probably during the pre-K years, maybe around 2, she still wasn't really saying any words. And then I did also notice, too, that she could understand. If I said something to her, she could understand, but she seemed very confused all the time.
Okay.
And that is part of, I guess, the auditory processing disorder, that they'd be confused. But for me, I had no idea.
Okay, so at that point, you had those ideas, and then you said, okay, let's take Ming, her daughter's name is Ming, let's take Ming to the doctor. Mm-hmm. Did you go to a regular GP? You went to a pediatrician, neurologist? Where did you guys go first?
We went to, auto specialist,
okay,
which really just worked with her ears. Because she did have a lot of ear infection. She had a problem with always water getting stuck in the ears or fluid getting stuck in the ears. So we had to get some tubes put in her ears. That's how it began.
Right.
It began with tubes. It began with ear infections. We thought that might have been part of, maybe she wasn't hearing well.
Right.
So we were recommended to go to audio specialist to test out her hearing.
Okay, so you went to an audiologist.
Mm-hmm.
Went to audiologist first. Mm-hmm. And was this a pediatric audiologist, somebody specialized with children, or was it a regular audiologist?
It was for children.
Okay.
Yeah, they specialized in children. We went there first, and then from there, we ended up going to a doctor to do a sight test.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And so, just so they could diagnose what the issue was.
All right. So once that was diagnosed, did you and your husband have like an aha moment that maybe that this was it? This was the cause of your Ming's symptoms? Was that it?
Well, once I talked to the doctor's findings, the doctor did tell me it was ADP, with an underlining of ADHD, and he suggested medication for that, even though she wasn't exhibiting those symptoms.
Oh, right,
but he did tell us, and he explained to us how she learned, and why it was so difficult with how the school was teaching her, why it was so difficult for her to learn the way they were teaching her.
Okay, so that was the initial step on a journey to finding out and understanding ADP. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you and I had conversations prior, and I know you were talking about how challenging it was to find, number one, teachers, specialists, advocates in the school system to help Ming progress to who she is as a woman now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was very, very, oh, it was just an emotional journey, just trying to find people, because at first I was really looking for someone who could tell me the success of a child with that.
Right.
You know,
right.
what do I do to make sure she's successful?
Right.
Because these were early years. I mean, she was very young. And to be told, well, you know, this child has no IQ, this child will never be much, you know, from, I mean, being at the age of like, I guess 5, that, you know, to give up.
But wait a minute now. So, Wendy, who was telling you that? Who was telling you to give up? Who was telling you that your child, this was it? There was no room for growth. There was no room for advocacy for your child. Who specifically was telling you and your husband that?
It was actually the school district. It was the school district. It was a CSC meeting that had really nothing to do with her IQ. It was basically just getting her testing to see how they could help her.
Right.
And then from there, it turned into this, well, you know, she has, we tested her. She doesn't seem to have, you know, an IQ. Her IQ is lower. It's really, really bad. And this was a child who was born early, you know, who was a 25-weeker, who was born early.
Well,
so
she was premature.
Yeah,
right.
So it's not shocking that this would be going on with her.
Oh,
so
okay.
the preparation was, they felt, let's prepare now, because we see down the line there's no hope.
There's no hope.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were they basing that on other, strictly on the IQ test,
mm-hmm.
not on other children who had this disorder, just strictly on the IQ test?
And I think it's funny when they never even decide to really, the person making that decision never really looks at the child, never goes to see the child, never talks to the child, bases it on one test to say that your child will never go to college, your child will basically not get a diploma, you know, that we have to get this child ready to just be somebody in life. And maybe that somebody might be, she could work at Walmart, she could work at all department stores, she could work in the back, she could, you know, do dishwashing, she can do those type of things. That was the scenario I was given that day. And I was just like, you know what, that's not the child I see.
Right.
And there is no way that I'm mapping out her future right now to see it that way, as young as she is.
So, okay, so once you and your husband got that information, all right, you being a first-time mom, you're hearing this negativity, and you decided, okay, what inside you said, no, I am not going to stop here?
I'll say it was a whole lot of faith, because as I said before, she was born a premature baby. I had a battle when I was in the hospital.
Right.
You know, for her life. It was a lot of praying. It was a lot of trusting Jesus. I trust Jesus.
Right.
You know, I really did. I got to know him there. And so for that reason, I feel like I'm back at the hospital again. And they told me no. They told me a lot of things that would go on, and I didn't see those things, because I believe, or I know for sure, that God came in and that he worked it all out.
Right.
So here and now, I know he's going to do it again. So I know that I can't believe what they're saying. I can't believe what I see. I have to believe what I know God can do. And I know that he made this child for a reason.
Right.
I just had to find out what that was.
Okay, so now you're moving through the maze. You're
Mm-hmm.
moving through the maze because Ming still has to get into school. She still has to get some kind of aspect of money. You're moving through the maze. On that journey, who did you meet that further stamped, that said, yes, God did it, but in the actual world, who was that person or persons that helped put you and your husband say that?
I think it was an activist that we had met.
Okay.
And that activist, I had talked with him. He was familiar with the auditory processing disorder, because he had 2 sons with that as well.
Wow.
And it wasn't the first time I had looked for an activist. I had done it before, but it was never someone that truly understood what the disability was. It was more or less someone saying, this is the law. You can do this, you can do that, you can do this. But I found out as I was moving forward that this had to be about the disability. I had to get the help with the disability.
Right.
And that way the schools would know how to deal with her as well. But I had to get someone who knew that. And, you know, and I looked, and I had looked many times, but this day I was determined to find someone. I had prayed about it. And then one morning I got up, I saw this man online, and he had talked about having sons with it. And he was an activist for over 30 years. And I called him. And right away, he was interested. Right away, he wanted to come meet me.
So so for people watching us, parents watching us, who actually have experiences with ADP, who is the advocate? What's the gentleman's name?
Wayne Rock.
Wayne Rock.
Wayne
Isn't
Rock.
that fitting?
And
ROCK?
Wayne Rock rocked. Absolutely. He rocks, and he came in and he rocked. And he sat down, he talked with us he met with us, he met my daughter, and he had said, you know, she's a unique. I'm watching her. She's very focused. I'm watching her. I see her determination. I'm watching her. I see her gifts and her talents. And he's like, and let me tell you, children with this can't usually do those can't focus, you know, for a long amount of time. To sit down and actually draw things out, and right, there's something unique about her, and I bet they don't know it.
What?
Yes.
So how did he pull that out? Where did he take you and your husband then?
We were at the library.
All right. So you met Wayne Rock. He said that Ming was not your quote unquote typical child with ADP.
Mm-hmm.
She's focusing. She's doing things that are different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now where did you guys go from there? Did you have to move her to a different class, or what happened?
Well, so once he, you know, determined that, he looked at her paperwork. He said, you know, I have sons that have this, and he was like, and then nothing like her. You know, I mean, he's like, I think the school don't know what to do with her.
Now, how old was Ming at this point?
Ming was. At this point, she was in actually 4th grade.
Oh, that's at 7 or 8 years old. What was she exhibiting at home?
Okay, so at home, there was confusion. Now, once I learned she had auditory processing disorder, I have to say I felt very guilty, because there were times where I would tell Ming to do something. And even though she still wasn't talking as well yet, she still would understand the commands that I would say to her. She would understand what I mean, but she would get confused. So there were times I would say, you know, Ming, go up underneath your bed and grab your shoes, and because we're going to leave. And that's an example. She would go in her room, and she'd be on top of the bed, you know, and I would be like, what's taking her so long? And I go and I check on her, and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, shoes. I was like, under the bed. Why are you on top of the bed?
Right.
You know, and she'd just look at me puzzled, you know, and I didn't understand why she would do that. Or go in the closet, open the door, you know, close the door. Too many things at one time. Hard for her to remember them all. Or maybe do some of them and not all of them.
So now what did you do? So you saw that too many things at one time Ming could not decipher. Ming could not do.
Mm-hmm.
Did you and your husband make little changes as you understood? Did you adapt to her?
Absolutely. Once the doctor explained to me how Ming learned, and how Ming was more of a visual learner, and we had to combine visual with speaking, as well as visual, it was speaking, and it was like actually showing her the information. You know, his example was, you know, there's Beethoven. For Ming to understand who Beethoven is and to also remember it, she'd have to see his picture. She'd have to hear his music, and then she would have to hear the story of him.
What?
And that is how it would stick. That is how it would download. And so for me, I had to figure it out pretty much with everything, you know, and to even do all of this, I knew that I could not work like I was working. I had a business. I could not man that business. I could not be there that way. I really had to come home because the one thing I remember the schools telling me, and that person who had just said so many mean things to me, the one thing he said was, you can't expect the school to help your daughter. You know, you have to help your daughter, because when she doesn't make it in life, you're going to be looking in the mirror and you're going to know why it was you, you know. And when I thought about all of that, I was like, you know what? I said, in order to make sure that she learns the way she's supposed to, I can't expect the teachers. The therapist had already told me, or the doctor had already told me, that Ming was not going to learn how she needed to, because teachers would not have time to teach that way. A lot of them would just teach one way, one style, that's it.
So she
may be the only one in the classroom that has auditory processing disorder, so therefore they're not going to change everything.
They're not going to change for one person.
Mm-hmm. Because it's not, I don't know, with ADP, it's not something that, it's a lot of it. And sometimes it's not diagnosed because you don't see it on the outside. You only see it when a kid is getting ready to do their homework, or you only see it in academics. When they're getting ready to academically, do something, that is when you'll see that something is wrong. Something's not right. The way they hear, the way they process. You may tell them something, they do something else because they heard it wrong.
Right. Right.
So, because of all that, I really had to sit home and figure out how I was going to teach my daughter. I thought I would have to homeschool, and so I said, I'm going to have to leave the job. I'm going to have to come home. Me and my husband decided, and I, just turned the kitchen into a classroom.
So how old was she at this point when you and your husband made that ultimate decision?
She was about 5.
5?
Mm-hmm.
So from 5 years old up until the time that she was an adolescent teenager, you and your husband basically took over the reins of teaching Ming.
Yes. Once I'm wrong. This timeline's off.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the timeline's off. No, because when we found out Ming had auditory processing disorder, she was in 4th grade. That's when I had the paperwork.
Okay.
So, I was getting mixed up.
Okay.
So around that time is when I had to make the decision. Once the doctor explained to me how she learned, I knew that the teachers weren't going to teach that way. I couldn't even trust them to do it.
Right.
And so I had to make a decision. So I made a decision then, and I've been home with her ever since.
And it's just amazing to me how you and your husband said, listen, this is what it is. All right. We are going to have to take over the reins of teaching our daughter how to move about in the school system and also into the world.
Yep.
We had to make that decision. But the good thing about it is you and your husband were able to do that.
Yes.
And there's so many parents.
It's a lot of sacrifice.
Who can't do it.
It is.
Who can't afford to step back from their jobs. Who can't afford to step back from their everyday.
I was cracking piggy banks. I was cracking piggy banks. I had some clients come into my house. I was really, trying to find my way through to just keep things going while my husband was out there really, working hard because he just took over. He took over everything. He knew that we were going to go down to a 1-income household, and he just did what he needed to do. So I didn't have to worry about that. All I had to worry about was how to teach Ming. I had called teachers up. I had asked them to send me her work ahead of time, anything that was going to be on testing, any of the work you can get to me as soon as possible. And then I figured out that I just remembered what the doctor told me, how she learns. And I would break the work down. I would make it into games. I would record myself. I would have her study it. I would record myself, so maybe even when she's sleeping, she had earphones on.
What?
Yes. I just, any and everything. I tried everything. I just wanted to make sure, but something began to work.
Now, okay, so now what age did you and your husband say, oh my goodness, all of the work, all the sacrifices that we've made as parents and as people are starting to pay off? What stage was that?
Okay, so that 4th grade we started, it was a long journey. About 7th grade, we started to see something. We started to see her become more independent in her studying. She would say to me, Mom, I don't need you to help me. let me study on my own. Her speech, everything got better. It's almost as if I think during that time that everything changed. She started to find her voice. She started to become very independent with her studying, testing. She wanted to be an honor student. She thrived for that, and she just began to happen. It began to happen. I felt like the end of that year of 7th grade, I had allowed her to do a lot on her own by herself, and I just noticed she started picking up those honor roll certificates.
What?
Yeah, she started remembering. I would test her. She would remember her work, and we were no longer. I no longer had earphones on her. I no longer had to sit there and try to put all these things together. It's almost like something clicked. I want to say that God was working.
He was in there.
I want to say God was working because I couldn't believe what was going on. I could not believe of her even just being able to remember, understand, do things for herself, you know?
So, was Ming under any medication at this point?
No.
No medication?
I refused to put on the meds. I decided that, you know what, I'll do food, you know. She was already a water drinker. She didn't like juices, which was really great.
Yeah.
She always loved vegetables. That was all right. I added the fruit, and I just amped that up. And she, I don't know, it just seemed as though she could think faster. It just seemed as though she absorbed much better, you know. And after 7th grade, I pretty much laid back on really doing the things I used to do, and I watched her, and she just took the reins.
This is another testament to how diet plays an integral role
Absolutely.
in behavior and mind functioning.
Mm-hmm.
If you decrease the carb intake, the bad carb intake, and move it up to the good carbs that help you stay fuller longer and also help improve the functioning of the brain, the body will exhibit themselves to you. And This is what happened.
Absolutely. And I think just a multitude of things, and, you know, me praying forever.
Yes.
Waiting for God
yes.
to just jump in when, or just do something with me to help her. One, to just really show me that what I was thinking about her was true. You know, that she could, that she would be able to, that all we had to do was just get her on a track and show her and teach her, you know, and teach her. And the one thing that I taught her was to never be afraid to ask questions. Never be afraid to say, I don't know. Because if you don't know, believe me, you'll learn. And I would tell her that in class because she always kind of felt bad sometimes for not understanding something. But I'd say to her, raise your hand. I said, and say, I don't understand. And allow them to tell you again. Also to teaching her, it was 8th grade when I sat her down and I taught her what a disability was.
What?
Mm-hmm. We went through the disability. She, you know, we looked it up on the internet. She got a chance to read about it. And she said, you know what, Mom? She said, I was always wondering why I was different. Like I felt different. She's like, I always was wondering why I couldn't always remember things, or how come I always would hear things and it didn't. And people would say to me, that's not what I said. And I never really understood why. And she said, but now I understand. I get things mixed up in my mind if people speak too fast. If I'm distracted.
Right.
So she got a chance to learn about her disability, and she actually wrote about it. She wrote about it. She did projects on it for the classroom. She taught other kids. She never felt bad about being who she was.
Because in a sense, the ADP made her special.
It really did.
In a sense, the ADP made her unique.
And different. And you know what? Unique, and I've always taught her, unique and different, that's beautiful. You want to be that.
Yes.
You don't want to be the same as anybody else. So she wears that proudly. But, you know, I have to say for herself, she understands her disability. She knows how she learns. She knows she needs to be, she knows she's always going to have to work hard. That's not a problem with her, you know, because she knows in the end what she's going to get for working hard.
Yes.
You know, she has a wall full of honor roll certificates, okay? When she was told she'd never get any. Okay? And I think putting that Regents diploma on the wall, Regents diploma, not a certificate.
No, Regents diploma.
Yes, but a Regents diploma, because even back in that room years ago, I was told she would never have any of that. She wouldn't go to college. She wouldn't get a diploma. You know, she wouldn't get a job. She has worked over the summer. She's had a job. She's done everything that they said she never would. So, you know, for her, she knows my hard work gets me what I need. And it gives me an opportunity to show that I can.
And one of the things that you pick up through this, the thread that's moving, that's interwoven between all this, is that consistency is the word. You have to be stable. You have to be consistent. You have to tell her always, you are beautiful. You are beautiful despite that.
Become the broken record.
Yes.
On replay. Yes. And I say in the very beginning, even before, when I left the hospital, they told me, Ming, we were in the hospital for 7 months. When I left the hospital, they told me Ming would be like a 3-month-old. She would be doing, even though she's 7 months, she'd be 3 months. And so she wouldn't turn over. She wouldn't walk, when she's supposed to. She wouldn't be able to do any of those things that a 7-month-old baby would be able to do. And, in my mind, I said, I don't know. I just want to get her home. Let me see.
Let me see.
And as soon as I got her home, this child was turning over. This child was crawling. This child was pulling herself. Already she was showing me that she was strong. Already she was showing me that, you know what? I want to say that God was showing me that what you hear and what you see may not be what it is.
Yes.
And so I had to look a little further, but she was doing everything. This kid was just unbelievable. And even when she'd get her checkups, they'd be shocked at what she was doing.
That's my other question. So did you and your husband talk to the doctors at every stage?
Every stage they were shocked. They couldn't believe it.
They said like, no, Miss Johnson, that's not true.
She was an unpredictable baby. She didn't come when she was supposed to. She did everything she wasn't supposed to as a baby. And then, so, now we get up into grade school. The only thing I could do was look back at who she was back then to see the kid here and say she was like that back then. And she just was successful. So if she's like this now, she still can be successful. It's different. I can look back at that and know I won there. I can look at this and know we can win here, and I feel like just everything that I had to go through was so worth it. Worth it now to have a child who's now up in college.
Yes, now she's in college, y'all.
Who's doing her own thing. But I never thought I could never believe that this would have been my ending.
Now, one of the things that you and I talked about prior to this was that you were saying how one of the talents that Ming has is music. Right? She plays the guitar. She wanted to play the guitar. You told me that story, how she wanted a guitar.
Yes. So Ming, and that was about 5th grade. So 5th grade, Ming said to me, Mom, the teacher was talking to us all about what we wanted to be. She said, I told the teacher, I want to be a rock star. I love rock music. I want to be a rock star. And she said, and the teacher laughed. And she said, it upset me. And she was like, why are you laughing at me? And the teacher said, well, do you play an instrument? And she says, no. And she says, well, do you sing or anything like that? She says, no. She goes, so how do you be a rock star if you have no interest in music? And she goes, but I do have an interest in music. I want to play a guitar. She goes, but you don't know how to play one. She goes, no, I don't. So when she came home to tell me, she, of course, was very confused about it.
Right.
And so I told her, I said, well, Ming, I said, if that is what you want to do, then guess what? We'll get the lessons. The teacher should not have laughed at you.
Exactly.
The teacher should have gave you support.
Exactly.
Said, you know what? You can be anything you want.
Exactly.
You put in the work. You can. And so I told her, I said, we'll look around for one. And I did. And that week, I found one. And she did her first lesson, second lesson, and by the 3rd lesson, the teacher says to me, I don't think she's a guitar player. And I said, okay. I said, so what do you think the problem is? He's like, she just doesn't get it, you know? I think she should play drums or something like that. You know, drums are easier. And so I looked at her and I said, well, you heard what he said. What do you think? And she says, Mom, I want to play a guitar. And I said, okay. Now, I told my husband, when I deal with these music teachers, I don't want to tell them that she has a disability.
Right.
Because I don't want them to to make that be the reason why they stop trying to help.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I said I would never tell them.
Right.
So the second one, it was the same exact thing. He said, oh, she should play the piano. I think piano may be good for her. And I was like, no, we're not going to play the piano. I was like, and I asked her, I said, what do you think about the piano? She goes, Mom, I just want to play the guitar. I said, okay, Ming, one more. 3 strikes, we're out.
Yes.
We go to another teacher. It's the same thing. He suggested another instrument, and she was like, nope,
No.
guitar. And so I said, okay, I need a break. We need a break.
We need a break.
You know, and she says, okay, Mom. I guess it was a few months later, you know, because my husband did invest in her guitars.
Right, and they're not cheap, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, and they're sitting around. But, you know, one day I heard music up in a room. And I go upstairs and I'm like, what are you listening to? And she says, oh, me. That's me. I said, you're playing the guitar? She's like, yeah. I said, how? She said, I taught myself. Mom, I've been on YouTube. I taught myself the strings, you know, and she was playing like a pro. I could not believe it. I could not believe it.
4 music teachers said no, she needs to do something other than three.
Yeah,
to do something other than the guitar. And
so she plays guitar, she plays the piano, she plays the drum, she plays everything that they suggested on top of the guitar. She plays it. She taught herself, and she's amazing. And even to this day, there are teachers who say, where did she go to school?
School. Went to school in my house with my parents.
She plays by ear. She learned how to play by ear. And then her last year of school, she actually took a class where she was actually learning notes and things like that. She was learning theory, music theory.
I think you told me, did she write something? Did she write?
She's written songs. She has. This is a child. This is a child who could not put things in order,
right,
because of the disability.
Right.
Who is now a songwriter, who is a storyteller, who writes stories, who does. I want to say that I feel like music has been her healer, because of the music, because of the will to have to learn the order of music, and even how you write a lyric, to even understand all those things, you have to be passionate, and her passion for the music has helped her with the disability to, you know, that the disability wouldn't stop her from being able to do those things, to produce music, to write songs, to write the stories, you know, to come up with the ideas and everything like that, to have the time to sit there and focus and put everything together, you know.
And one of the things too that's important is that Ming now is her own advocate, and she's teaching other students, adults, parents about
professors.
Yes,
and now professors.
She
teaches them. And just a couple of weeks ago, she had sent out a letter to all the professors and about how she learns. You know, I really left it up to her. I did tell in the very beginning, I think you should talk to the professors and let them know. She said, Mom, I just want to try it. I want to try it and see if I could do it. I want to learn like all the other kids. I want to try to see if I can do that. And also, too, they are live streaming. They're not really in classes.
Right.
Therefore, they're Zooming and stuff like that. But I told her I felt she should let them know in the very beginning she didn't want to do it. She wanted to try because she didn't want to be looked at differently.
Right.
You know? And she did start to have a little hard time being confused with some things. And I think one of the teachers had said to her, one of the professors had said to her, when she asked the professor, she continuously always asked. It's an English professor, so this is about words and writing, and so she would ask the professor to repeat things because maybe she said it too fast. Sometimes it's the language.
Correct.
And so she would say, could you repeat it again? And could you maybe say it differently? And the teacher was like, okay, what's going on? Like, what, you keep doing this a lot. And I had told her, when she told me, I said, Ming, don't get frustrated with the teacher who's frustrated because she doesn't understand what, is going on. You have to let her know. And she says, all right, Mom, I'm going to let her know. So she wrote a letter. She let her know. Now she showed me the teacher actually writing back to her. And it was just beautiful how she said, Ming, I knew there was something. I am so glad you told me. And I will repeat as much as you need me to repeat. I will help you with the work. I will break everything down for you. Whatever you need. I know you're a hard worker because I can tell that you never give up. You continuously ask more questions than anybody. You continuously ask me to repeat it over and over again. So I know that you really want to learn it. And she said, I suggest that you send it to every professor. And so Ming did. She sent it to all the professors. And it was just it had me crying because I just said, wow, look at the pouring of just understanding that the teachers are saying to you. Even one of the teachers had said, I have a processing disorder as well.
What?
So I totally understand, Ming. And I will help you even if it's not in class. Even if you need me for more, I'll be here to help you.
It's just that one teacher who took the time to say that and to be positive versus one teacher
Yes.
being ignorant and not saying the right things. How your words and how your behavior can affect one's self-esteem.
Absolutely. And you think in grade school it'd be easy to for the teachers to understand when you're telling them that, and most of the time they don't. I don't know why. I don't know what the issue is. That I won't say every teacher, but I'd say some really disappointed me in their behavior towards her.
Right.
When I told them what was going on with her and how we would need the help.
Right.
Now she's in college. And, she kept saying, I don't know if the professors are going to help me like this, Mom. And one of the professors said, look, I thought his writing to her was so great. He said, this is her music professor. And he said, you are so talented. You are so incredible. Your music should be produced. And he was like, and I'm going to help you produce it. And I'm going to help you when it comes to understanding everything because I believe you're so smart. You are so smart. You can do this, and I'm here. And I said to her, I was like, see, everybody's here.
Yes.
I said, so what does that tell you? She says, that I'm going to be successful. I said, you're going to be successful even in college.
Yes.
And what do you think about, in the beginning when you were afraid to let him know? And she was like, that I can't think that everybody is always going to treat me the same, that everybody's always going to look at me and say she's not smart, she's never going to learn, she's never going to, that there are some people that really do and that are okay with helping me.
So now, Wendy, what is Ming's social interaction? What are her friends? How is that environment going for her?
Okay, so all through school she might have had friends here and there, but never really lasting. And that was really on the choice of Ming, because Ming always felt like if I'm going to have friends, I want them to understand who I am. One thing I do is I love music, and that I want them to have that in common with me, and a lot of of course, the kids you meet don't know old school rock and don't know all these things, and you don't want to do it 24/7, and you want to play with dolls. And she's just like, you know what? I'd rather just be doing my music.
Right.
I'd say in college, since she's been in college, she has found her people, her tribe. They're musicians like her.
What?
Yes. And so she has been, hanging out and making music with other kids. She's formed a band, that they're making music together, girls and boys, Yeah.
So this goes.
It's diversity within the band.
Yes,
but it's beautiful to see her interacting and kids really, really, loving her and seeing that specialness in her, and they all connect on that same thing. I used to worry about her not having the friends. I used to try to push it on her, and she used to be like, I don't want to.
I'm not ready, Mom.
I don't want to. I kind of just, if I'm going to have friends, I just want it to be that we have things in common. you know.
And she found
I can't
them.
believe she found them in
I know
college,
she
but
found them. And she found
she
them.
found them. She found them.
And it's just
I'm happy
that,
for her.
yeah, just that
So happy
growing up
for her.
myself, when you're in a situation where you don't have anybody to look at, and to look at to help you be a better you. Yeah. So you're always continually trying to find somebody to help you be a better you. And when you do find out those people or that person, it helps bolsters your self-esteem, knowing full well that, you know, the help I need is usually within me. But if I can find somebody on the outside to look in, that goes a long way as well.
It's true.
Now, what stage of her college is she in now?
She's only in her first year.
First year. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know
because of the COVID. COVID. I mean, and this wasn't the college we first went for. The first college we actually, you know, tried to get her into did not accept her because she wasn't strong in theory.
Okay.
You know, and also too, they didn't feel that they would be able to help her with her disability.
Did you guys feel okay with that because they were being honest?
I was disappointed because it was closer to home.
Oh, okay.
So you know what? And I wanted her closer. So and then I was panicked because the pandemic had started.
Yeah.
I got that letter.
Yeah.
I did not want to tell her and break her heart because college has been a plan forever.
Right.
You know, and I didn't want to tell her she could not go because also too, 2 months before that, the school had asked me to come in because they wanted to put together her a plan for getting out of school other than college, you know, and they had already said, you know, we thought Ming would probably be in retail, you know, and so they had broke down this retail idea, and I said, no, Ming's going to college, and so they were like, but Miss Johnson, okay, but it's going to be hard for me to get in, and so if she doesn't get in, what is she going to do? You have to be prepared.
Okay.
And so I was like, you know what? I said, I'm going to have to trust my feeling. I said, we're going to go to college.
We're going to go to college.
You know, and she says, okay, but it's always here for you. I said, okay. I'm glad to know it's always, and I thank you. I thank you for that. You know, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with the schools helping the kids to make plans for their future.
Correct.
When they have a disability. It's nothing. I just saw more for me.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Thought she was capable of more than that. And so when that school turned us down,
like, what?
I did not want to, I knew I was going to have an end of the year meeting with them. I didn't want them to ask me and I'd have to tell them that. So I was like, I was praying. I was like, Lord, help me. Right. Help me find a college. And I must have so many, you know, during the pandemic, and thank God I was able to just focus on that. That was my job during the whole pandemic. Right. And I'd say probably in that 4th month of the pandemic was when I was able to hear back from someone and actually talk to another person, you know, on the other end. And I asked that person, I said, I need to tell you a story. And we probably were on the phone for a couple of hours as I told her Ming's story and why it's so important for her to get in college. I didn't know if this was the one. Right, you know, but the girl had told me, I think this is the one. Because we can help her. You know, we have everything to help her here. You know, and I said, well, I'm going to need you to, because, you know, this is all new to me. Right. But I need Ming to succeed too. I'm going to need you to be on the journey with us, you know, till we actually get her there in the dorm. And she said, I will be. And she was with us the whole time. She really helped us get through a lot of things, you know, to get there.
But see, and that's another thing too that's important is to have an advocate, number one, but to have an advocate in a place where you want your child to go and to have that person stick with you throughout the whole journey.
The whole process.
That's so hard.
Even now, yes, and be very personal about it. And, you know, I mean, because also, too, it's upstate, you know, wasn't like 20 minutes away like the other college. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so far away. How am I going to get to her if she needs me? But, you know, it was my letting go period, too.
Yeah, but how tough was that for you and your husband? Because now
it was
a little tight, right?
Yeah, I was panicked. I think probably the second week she was there, I tried to call her one morning. I could not get her. And, that was not, it wasn't like her not to call me back. It wasn't like her not to get in touch with me, and I was just like, okay, she calls me every day at the same time. I'm calling her phone. Her phone is dead. What is going on?
What's happening?
So I called the young lady who had, who had been working with us, and I'm like, I can't find Ming. And she's like, oh, she's probably in her room, I'm sure. I said, well, the phone keeps going dead. I said, I know it sounds crazy. I said, but she calls me all the time at the same time. I emailed her. I said, she hasn't emailed me back. She has a class, probably had a class about a half an hour ago. I know she had to get the email. And so she said, all right, so I'm going to have somebody go up to her dorm and check to make sure she's okay. I said, that's all I need to know.
That's all I need. I'm a mom.
And I said, because you already know my journey with her. She says, yeah, I know. I said, this is big for me.
Big.
She's like, right. I know. And she's like, but I'm sure she's okay. But you know what? Just so you have peace of mind, I will make sure. And, so she did call me. Ming ended up calling me probably about 25 minutes later. I said, I was worried. She goes, Mom, I overslept. She goes, then when I got up, I went and took a shower. And she goes, and after I went and took a shower, she goes, it was time to get online for the school. And she was like, and so she goes, I said, I'll just have to call Mom, after, which was, which she didn't even get to call me until about 1 o'clock. So I was like, I said, Ming, I said, I'm sorry. I said, you know what? I'm just used to, she goes, I was so worried when somebody was banging on my door and they were like, your mother's looking for you. She's like, my mother? I talked to my mother last night. And she's like, because the lady said, why are you not calling your mother, Ming? She's like, I talked to my mother last night. So she's like, Mama, I'm so sorry. I said, it's okay. I said, you know what? It's me. I said, it's me. I said, I just need a minute to be able to understand that I have to gradually let you go. Yes. Gradually let you go. It took me a minute to get comfortable.
Yes.
I'm comfortable.
You're comfortable now?
I'm comfortable now.
But listen, what was the one nugget? What was the one nugget that you and your husband took from this whole thing? From this experience, what was the one nugget that you could take that and just pass it on to another family or to another mom or dad who are experiencing this same type of situation? What's the one little thing you could think of?
If I think of anything, I think from what I saw in the very beginning, I think we as parents are, I want to say, we see our children in a way that no one else does. So what we see, like what I saw in Ming, I saw strength, in the very beginning. I saw that she could make it through anything. Every call she overcame.
Right.
That was like my lesson. So I want to say we are the first prophesizers of our children.
Right.
And so when we see that thing, and usually that type of stuff, people don't see on the outside who are predicting. Usually it's because of an experience they've had, especially when it's doctors. Not saying all doctors are wrong, but sometimes they go on experiences. Not more or less your child. It's the experiences that they've had with a child going through these things. Right,
so they bring their own life experiences to that particular situation. Yeah. They're not being so objective at that point.
Yes. And optimistic, not.
Right.
Optimistic, not. Right. You don't get that. And so for me, I think it was that I saw who she was from day one. And that was the thing that was keeping me, that kept me going through all the trials that I would have to go through with her, with people trying to tell me. And there were times where I couldn't see those things. I couldn't see the future. I had no idea what that was going to look like. I was only dealing with that moment. And at that moment, I would say, you know what? I don't believe that. I can't believe that on a word. I have to see that. And I don't see that. That is not the child I see.
Right. So parents, if you have to be your child's advocate. You
Absolutely.
Have to be the one that stands in their fast. No matter what the world is doing around them, if you can stay focused on what your child can do,
it's capable of, yeah,
then you will be able to withstand all the showers and all the rain and all the rocks
Absolutely.
that are going to be thrown in the way.
That's right. And so when people are telling you, and they will call you crazy, because I can't tell you how much I have been called the unrealistic mom, I even think I was at a meeting and a man had said to me, how could this child with this disability be able to do the things that she's doing? She must be riding her, like, riding her 24/7. And I said to him, you could look at me. I am not doing that to my child. I don't force her. Everything I do with her is out of sheer love, and I do it in a loving way. I've never had to yell, I've never had to punish her. I've never had to do any of that to get her to be the hard worker that she is. She's just that way. So anything I've ever done with her has been out of love and in a loving way. I don't ride her.
Right. You have to do it with love.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do it with the commitment that you make to your child, no matter what is going on around you and your child. This has been so wonderful, Wendy. I really want to thank you for coming in today to help me out with this. Most importantly, with parents, with people, with children, with students, with anyone who might be going through ADP, auditory processing disorder, you have heard that despite the condition, you can overcome its moments.
Absolutely.
You can do it.
Absolutely. You can do it. And we definitely have to teach the children that they can.
Right. That's the most important thing. You have to teach your children, first and foremost, you have to keep them in your stead, and you have to keep them believing in themselves, most importantly. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Wendy. Appreciate it. All right. Once again, I want to thank Wendy Johnson for joining me today. This is my first video. I'm so happy that we were able to get this done. And in the words of Octavia E. Butler, all that you touch, you change. And all that you change, changes you. I'll see you on the next video.